everybody, Ninjo X the Enlightened Gamer here. Welcome back to the show. More importantly, welcome to the premiere of a brand new series here on X. Ninjo's Top 10! Before we get started, let me just say that being that this is a top 10 list and a top 10 show, the views that I'm going to speak about are strictly my own opinion. If you have different views or different opinions, please feel free to voice them in the comments below. I honestly don't know how it could be possible, but if you're somehow offended by this material, let me know. Just let me know. Maybe we'll be able to avoid that in the future. Maybe. Or maybe you're overly sensitive. I have to explore every possibility here on the show. I really feel like for this particular top 10, the most offensive thing is that it's not a better list. I could have done the top 10 games of 2015. I could have done top 10 best platformers, shooters, RPGs, top 10 most criminally under-talked about games. And I could have even kept it on theme with the game I'm currently playing, KOTOR. Top 10 characters in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. But I decided to go with something simple for this first list. And before I stall any more, Number 10, the Black Jinjo. The Black Jinjo's proof positive that even Golden Age Rare could make mistakes. Personally, I don't find anything about the Black Jinjos offensive myself, but I do understand that people have drawn a correlation to being the most heavily populated Jinjo family, and also being the Black family. Now, again, I don't think Rare meant anything malicious by this. But here in the States, that's the domain of a stereotype. The stereotype of the big black family. And it's an inaccurate one. 9 times out of 10, the big families you'll find are white families. Not that there's anything wrong with either one of those things. It's just something that I thought I would point out before going on. Which brings me to the real reason why the Black Jinjo's on this list. There are 9 of them. That means they are worth the smallest percentage of a Jiggy in the franchise. Nothing is worth less of a Jiggy than a Black Jinjo. So much to the point where finding them in Banjo Kazooie, the only game where they're available, is disappointing. Until you finally get to the point where you have 7 or 8 of them, in which case you do get excited seeing one. Now, the black coloring could have been a big advantage for this game, for this guy. Because dark coloring does help you blend with shadows. Better camouflage gets you better points if you're a Jinjo, at least in my opinion. It gives you character, shows that you're trying to hide, and not just an object. But Banjo Kazooie randomly seeds all of the Jinjos that appear in each level based off of the file selected And so, black Jinjos don't get to take advantage of their coloration. Sure, sometimes you'll find them in dark, dimly lit areas, like in the recesses of Glitter Gulch Mine, or the haunted area of Witchy World. But for the most part, you're just as likely to find them in well-lit areas where they stick out like a sore thumb. But that's just the bottom of this list. And now we've got nowhere to go but up. Sort of. Number 9. The brown Jinjo. The brown Jinjo family is dull. Ninjo X would like to at this time remind you that he has no biases towards race, gender, or sexuality. But the brown Jinjo family, surrounded by all these creatures, all these colorful, amazing, interesting creatures, even the bichromatic white and black Jinjos, the brown ones are the most forgettable. And I realize that whenever they were making the game Banjo Kazooie, again another Kazooie exclusive, that they only had so many dissimilar colors to work with. And brown as it is a little bit too close to red. So I do understand, but it's just not a very good color. That's really all there is to say. Moving on. Number 8. The violet Jinjo. This is a bit of a sad case, because a couple of the classic Jinjos from the original game, I couldn't justify them cracking the top 5. And the violet/pink Jinjo, it's listed as both in different games. Despite being very iconic for the series, it's not that great. First off, of the original Jinjos, it's the greatest hassle in Banjo Kazooie, being that there are the most of them, of any of the original colors. Secondly, its bright pink, purple, unidentified color, while very distinguishing, is also obnoxious for trying to hide. Really, only a handful of pink Jinjos do a good job of camouflaging because of their color. Because of this, they're one of the Jinjo types that likes to hide inside objects. While this is perfectly fine, and I personally really enjoy finding the violet Jinjos, it does keep them near the bottom of the list. Number 7. The green Jinjo. The green Jinjo is a classic example of a missed opportunity. You'd think with green coloration that it'd be really easy to match him into various environments in Banjo Kazooie, where green is the most common color on the color palette, besides maybe orangey browns. But very, very rarely will you ever find a green Jinjo in a green place. Instead, more than any other color, they seem to be almost displayed in hazardous areas. Like, this is a collectible, not a character. And for a Jinjo, that's a real shame. I understand somebody has to fill that role, but green? You had so much more you could have been. Number 6. The White Jinjo family. Hey, look at that! It's a free Jiggy! Oh, I mean it's the White Jinjo. The White Jinjo, despite being another Jinjo from Banjo Kazooie that has little to no personality, is very valuable as an object. It's the only Jinjo that's straight up worth a Jiggy. Find it? There's only one. If you find it, it has a Jiggy for you. That means that the White Jinjo is another stereotype. It's the most wealthy of all the Jinjos. Every family has only one Jiggy, with the exception of the ones that are given out by the groups in the first game, to give Banjo and Kazooie for succeeding. Well, almost every family. So that means that the White Jinjo has a higher percentage of wealth than any of the other Jinjos. Which is a shame, except that as soon as you save it, it gives that wealth to you. Really, in all honesty, that's the only reason I can justify putting it this high on the list. Because when you see it, you get excited. Because there's only one. That means you get a Jiggy. Get jiggy with it. Get jiggy with it. Number 5. The Red Jinjo. Finally cracked the top 5. Okay, the Red Jinjo is special. First off, there aren't too many Red Jinjos, which means they're valuable in the only game that they exist, Banjo Kazooie. Second off, they're so iconic in that game because of their color that they almost feel like they were in the first game. Among all the other colors in the new game, red is by far the most vibrant, exciting, and Jinjo-like. That's okay. Actually, it's better than okay. That's fantastic. But it is odd that all of the colors of Jinjos in Banjo Kazooie can also be skin colors. We're really the only debatable one in the original game would be yellow. And that's a bit of a stretch if you want to know my opinion. But red works. Among all the other colors of Jinjos introduced, red is the one that's the most Jinjo. So it deserves a top spot on the list. Number 4. The Blue Jinjo. Blue's my favorite color. But that's not why it's this high on the list. It's this high on the list because the Blue Jinjo is one of the better in the original game at blending in with its environment. Not only are there 2 snowy areas where you can find the Blue Jinjo, but there are multiple watery areas as well. Now, I could cop out and say the Jinjo-nator is blue, and so the Blue Jinjo gets bonus points because it is the strongest of all of the Jinjos. But that would be grossly inaccurate of me. The Jinjo-nator is likely not a living organism, more filling the role of a Megazord to those of you who know Power Rangers, or not a kaiju killer. I can't remember the name of those things. Meaning that there is no blue missile, which actually docks at a considerable amount of points. The blue Jinjo would be higher up on this list if the Jinjonator was just the blue Jinjo missile. But I still think it deserves a place in the top 5. Number 3. The Orange Jinjo family. The Orange Jinjo family is one that I originally had very low on this list. In fact, it may have leapfrogged positions with green. That's because the Orange Jinjos are weird. There's plenty of orange color and texture for them to hide in Banjo Kazooie, but for the most part, they ignore it. However, every single orange Jinjo is found at high altitude, with maybe the exception of the one in Clanker's Cavern, usually on a ledge. You might even say they're ledge hogs. But the Orange Jinjo is special in the sense that it's valuable in all games. Firstly, there's only 3 of them. 2 of them. Firstly, there's only 2 of them in Banjo Tooie, meaning that they have the second highest wealth of any Jinjo family. Sort of. That, their personality, and the fact that unlike Blue, they do have a Jinjo missile. I kind of think of the missiles as magical warriors among the Jinjos. Gives them the 3rd spot on this list, which brings us to the top 2. Number 2. The Yellow Jinjo family. I feel like this one's pretty obvious. The Yellow Jinjo family has a family member in royalty. And that family member in royalty gets more character development than most other characters throughout the course of Banjo Tooie and Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. King Jinjoling rules over the Jinjo people fair. And he is the 4th Yellow Jinjo. That means that since he gives you a jigsaw piece, and the Yellow Jinjo family gives you a separate jigsaw piece, the Orange Jinjo family isn't the wealthiest. They're in a dead heat with the Yellow Jinjo family. Who also have a lot of personality in the first game. You'd think with a yellow coloring that it'd be darn near impossible for them to hide, but they definitely find a way in certain areas. Like the Orange Jinjos, they like high altitude, but even more. The only one that's really well hidden based off of its color, would be the one in Gobi's Valley. But I think that's okay. Because Jinjling on his own gives him a warm place in our heart. And being a paramount key character in Nuts and Bolts doesn't hurt either. Before we get to number 1, here's some honorable mentions. There's only 10 options. There are no honorable mentions. Number 1! Was there really any doubt? Somebody who likes mystery and depth and atmosphere as much as I do? Banjo Kazooie is a sunny game. It has a yellow disposition. It's supposed to be a good time. It's not particularly easy, but it's also not impossibly hard. And that's done for a very good reason. Banjo-Tooie, however, ramps up the difficulty and with it carries easily the darkest atmosphere of any game in the series. Easily. In a series where most games equate to, let's go on an adventure and have lots of fun. Banjo-Tooie starts with the death, spoiler alerts, of Bottles. Then advances to the death of Jinjling. But on the way, you figure out that an entire family, a family likely of 10, was crushed in their house by the digging machine, the Hag 1. In a game that pushes its dark atmosphere, the Grey Jinjo family pushed it so much further. They died suddenly, they died abruptly, they died violently, but of all the characters who died in Banjo-Tooie, theirs was the one most permanent, and thereby the most profound. There's no way I could have given this spot to any other color of Jinjo. The Grey family, which theoretically would have been the largest at 10, all wiped out in a single night. And if you want to talk about camouflage, they're the only ones that can be considered camouflaged in the second game. They're camouflaged so well that you can't find them. If any survived, which with a family of 10, honestly it's likely that at least 1 or 2 would have gotten out, you can't find any. They hide so well that they're disguised from the game code. And maybe they were originally going to be in the game, but then Rareware thought, there's too many Jinjos already. So they killed them off. And what a wise decision that was. Fun fact, Ninjo X himself is gray. Thanks very much for sticking through this top 10. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like. If you really liked it and you want more, consider subscribing. If you have any suggestions for future top 10 lists, or if you have your own opinion on this list, positive or negative, please leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear back from you. And as always, until next time, I hope you too will stay enlightened.